We've been talking about the letter Aleph in particular, in the last couple of two classes, in fact. And today we're going to go a little further. We're going to go into the Aleph. We're just going to jump right in to what we were speaking about in Sefer Yetzirah, which we've got a number of Sefer Yetzirah buffs here. Um, and uh, and it says in Sefer Yetzirah, the third chapter. המליך אות א' ברוח וקשר לו כתר, וצרפן זה עם זה וחתם בהן אוויר בעולם ורבייה בשנה וגבייה בנפש, זכר באמש ונקבה באשם. Literally, he made the letter Aleph reign over Ruach, which is air, which is spirit, bound a crown to it, joined it with the others, and with them sealed air in the world, temperateness in the year, and the torso in the soul, male with Emish and female with Asham. So I don't think that could get even like more esoteric and like what's the code over here? What's happening in these words um, is obviously a lot. So we spoke about how the three mother letters that we have, Aleph, Shin, and Mem, represent the three um, cardinal energies that are in creation. We have the masculine, feminine, and we have what binds the two together. We've got the fire and water, and then we've got air. And we're going to see a lot more on the mother letters, and we did speak about the mother letters, but in a sense, the letter Aleph in this picture, you actually see this visual, the depiction of it is so perfect because this is really what the Aleph is. It is this mixture of fire and water, and it includes like a temperature, going back to the words that there's a certain temperature over here that that is a combination of not just water and fire. It's a combination that creates the air around us. And and air is breathed where? It's breathed within our bodies. It's breathed within our lungs, which is in the torso. So on in our body, we have the letter Aleph, most notably in the torso. So right here, like like right in the middle, heart, you could call it heart chakra, some people call it or whatever, that we have the air, we have where we breathe, and the whole structure of breath is taking in air from above us and bringing it down into us and then breathing it back out. And then there's this synthesis that's happening, this balance that's happening from these two sides. The Zohar tells us that if it was not for the lungs, the Zohar says this in Tikkun Zohar and in other places, that if it was not for the lungs, the body would not be able to withstand the intensity of the fire that is there from the lower parts of the lower organs, such as the kaved, the liver, and as well as the intensity of the heart, and what the lungs do is that they are actually the greatest refiner that we have, that refines really the pollution, the inner pollution that we have. Whatever we take in, we're able to breathe out, but we also breathe in pollution, right? And so the letter Aleph is this breath of like of purity and balance that we're trying to accomplish. So in today's class, we're going to go into this structure of what the letter of what this means on an internal level, and we're going to explore a number of sources from the Zohar, Tikkun Zohar, from the Midrash, and a beautiful writing from Rav Kook that actually puts this together in an amazingly beautiful way. I want to say hi to Marcy. I hope you had a nice Pesach.
I did. Thank you. I hope you did as well. I hope you didn't have, sirens in the middle.
Yeah, well, we definitely did, but
I'm sure. Yes.
um, but thank God everyone is well. Thank
Good.
God,
I'm glad.
miracles. We're seeing miracles.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank God. It's good to see you and shall have it. Great to jump back into this. So so I want to start off with a story. It's kind of like a story, but it's a really great introduction. So the Alter Rebbe wanted to teach his son the Aleph Bet. The Alter Rebbe, what did he do? He called one of his disciples. So obviously, I'm sure showed his son, who's called the Mittler Rebbe, who I think Yitzchak, you're a descendant of his, which is pretty cool. So he called one of his disciples into his study to discuss the matter. And he says, "You're going to be teaching my son what Aleph means, okay? I don't want you to just give him the technicality. Oh, this is an Aleph. I'm giving you exact directions and how I want the Aleph to be conveyed to this child who's probably 4, 5 years of age." And this is what he told him. So he said, first, you have a mitzvah and I have a mitzvah. He said, your mitzvah is to support your family. My mitzvah is to teach my son. Let's trade mitzvahs. In other words, I want to hire you. You will teach my son and I will pay you so that you can support your family. So the Alter Rebbe went on to explain exactly how this instruction should proceed. He said, you'll begin with the letter Aleph. What is an Aleph? The Alter Rebbe continued melodically, and this is like quoted in many different places. He said in Yiddish, an Aleph is a pintele von oben and a pintele von unten, a kav beemtza. Okay? And what that means is a pintele is a point up above, and it's a point down below, and it is a connection, a diagonal line suspended in between. And that's like the gist of what he said. Like, this is how I want you to convey what the letter Aleph to my 5-year-old or 4-year-old. That the Aleph, the structure that you're seeing over here, is not just any structure. You're seeing a dot up above, you're seeing a dot down below, and you're seeing a diagonal connection. And he continued on, and there's two different ways of what he said. One is that the dot up above is the soul, your soul up above. In other words, your godly potential. The dot down below is your soul down here in this world, how how we perceive our potential. And the vav is the connection between the two. It's diagonal line that brings our higher self to now connect and merge with our lower self. This is how the Alter Rebbe wanted to teach his 5-year-old. So let's jump into what this most incredible letter is all about. So um, kind of love going back to slides because like we could just get a lot of information, and there's a lot of information that I want to convey, um, that we could just like refer back to, and you could see this. So Chassidus explains that Aleph has three different meanings. Okay, so the letter Aleph has three different meanings. Okay, so Aleph, which means aluf. Aluf in Hebrew means a master or a chief. The second is ulpena, which means a school of learning or a teacher. And the third meaning is reached by reading the letters backwards, which is pele, which is wondrous. So Aleph, Aluf's definition is master. So this lets the world know that there is a creator, that God created the world, that there's called an alufo shel olam. And the Midrash tells us about Avraham, that Avraham was investigating the world, was looking out into the cosmos. And of course, we know he wrote Sefer Yetzirah. And he was like, who made all of this? And he was like, there must be a master of 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 the universe, the master that created this incredible world. So this led him to ask all of these questions. So aluf means a master, and um, and so that recognition that the world didn't just create, but it wasn't didn't just appear by itself, that there is this source that created the world ex nihilo, called yesh mi ayin. And so God is called alufo shel olam. And I mean, we're going to get into this teaching of the Maharal that really relates to where we're at right now. The Maharal says that the whole difference between the word exile and redemption, how do we say exile in Hebrew? Gola, like galut, gola, exile. And geula, right? Geula is redemption. What's the only difference between gola, geula is one letter. That's the letter aleph. But when the letter aleph, which connotes, the Maharal tells us, alufo shel olam, the master of the universe. And the Rebbe quoted this like countless times, this Maharal, and it's quoted in many, many, many different sources. That the whole reason for the exile, our personal exile, and the exile around us, is that there is a lack of the transparency of the aleph, of the alufo shel olam in our world. And it's sort of like the light switch. That's what the aleph is. It's like this light switch. So you could be in a room, everything's there. It's perfect. Like everything is in the room, but just the lights are off. So for you who is in the room, you're seeing darkness. But the reality is not darkness. It's just you didn't turn on the light. So the light is the switch that goes on, and that's the letter aleph that's infused within the room, and on a collective level, it's infused within the gola. Now it creates the geula, creates redemption. So the aleph is the first explanation of the word aleph is aluf, from master of the world. So the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet connotes none other than God himself, right? Alufo shel olam. We're starting off Aleph Bet, and it's not just like any other scriptural uh, language that we have from other languages, but Aleph is is a reference point to God that is in the world. So that's the first explanation. The second explanation is it means ulpena. Ulpena means a school, or a teacher. Not only do we introduce God as the creator of the universe, but also as the teacher of all mankind. So God on the one hand, aluf is like God is the master of the world, and he's like there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he needs to interact with the world. The word ulpina it means to teach, and how God is now chose to be invested in the world and chose to be our teacher. God is our teacher. God's role as teacher is revealed when he introduces the Torah to the Jewish people and to the world. The Torah, the 613 mitzvot or laws, teach us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And through the divine wisdom of his book, God establishes himself in the world on the level of the ultimate teacher. So something very interesting that we're going to see in a couple of minutes is that from the Midrash, that the Midrash tells us, why was the world created with the letter Bet and not the letter Aleph, right? Question of all questions, which we're going to see the Zohar in a minute. We're going to see a Midrash quote from that. But the letter Bet is like really takes prime importance all this over the letter Aleph. That's not true, because when is the letter Aleph introduced? The first letter of Anochi, I am. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Hotzeiticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. The first of the Ten Commandments starts with the letter Aleph, while the creation of the world starts with the letter Bet. The introduction of how God teaches and how God communicates with mankind starts with the Ten Commandments is Anochi, is Aleph. I am. That God is the teacher of all mankind, and that is the Ten Commandments, the Torah introduced to the world. And just by the way, the Baal HaTurim says that there are 620 letters by the Ten Commandments. 620 letters by the Ten Commandments, which is the gematria, the numerology of Keter, of crown, which, as we know, the letter Aleph connotes this level of crown, of how the crown relates to the lower dimensions. So this dimension of the higher learning, the higher dimensions coming down into the world. That's really the effect of God being a teacher. And then finally, we have the third meaning of Aleph, which means Pele, wondrous. Pele represents the esoteric or mystical level of Torah, Kabbalah, and teachings of Chassidus, known as the teachings of Mashiach. These secrets of Torah make up its greatest level. So Pele. So we have the letter Aleph. So if it's spelled backwards, we have the letter Pele. And this comes from a verse, Kimei, which we actually just really overpass over. This was the theme. Kimei tzetcha me'eretz Mitzrayim, ar'enu niflaot. As the days you left Egypt, I will show you wonders. It says in the book of Micha. So as the days that you came out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. So there's two explanations to that. First explanation is just like the days that we came out of Egypt, meaning we're going to see miracles, just like they saw miracles. Cool. That's amazing. That's the first explanation. And we're kind of seeing that. We mentioned some of the miracles happening here, some of the miracles, although, the light has not been fully switched on. The light, right? We're waiting for the Aleph to like come into exile, for the light switch to really be there. But we're seeing miracles. But then the second explanation is, Ki meitzetcha me'eretz Mitzrayim, ar'enu niflot. I will show you miracles that are even beyond the miracles of those that happened when we came out of Egypt. That they're even beyond it. Whoa. What could be beyond that? Talking about the 10 plagues, the splitting of the sea, and all that, right? It sounds like pretty amazing, pretty wild. And it's like, what do we have to embrace ourselves for? Like, we're going to see miracles that are beyond the miracles of those that we came out of Egypt. Like, you know what? I'll be very happy with just simple, just let's get by, let's get through this, let's get by, right? But this is the deeper thing. The deeper explanation of this is that the word Aleph means Pele, that I will show our enu. So it's actually like right here in the words. So in Hebrew, grammatically, it should say our ehu, when we say our enu, it means I will show to myself. Like our enu in Hebrew grammatically means not I will show you. Like we technically means that. But grammatically, it actually means I will show myself the miracles, wonders. So what in the world does that mean? I will show our enu niflaot. So the letter Pele, wonder, and the letter Aleph are the same letter. And the letter Pele is the wonder that is right here inside of me, right here in the simplicity of day-to-day life, which in truth, it's a miracle that each one of us are here right now. Right? What are the chances of us not being born? Of, of just biologically that there was the point of inception and there was the point of we were in our mother's womb and then we had birth and here we are the wonders that are going on inside of our body biologically. It's insane. One chromosome is off. My uncle is Down syndrome. One chromosome. That's it. One little pivot this way or that way. Could we recognize that the miracles don't need to be outside of me? Our enuni float, that the miracles are like hello. We keep on looking for miracles that are outside of us, but the miracles, the deepest miracles, are the miracles that are our enu, that are inside of us. So what I believe the deeper explanation of this, and this is based on like Chassidus, where this verse is actually shared a lot as the days of coming out of Egypt. I will show you wonders how we said that the letter Aleph is the letter of Alufa Shel Olam, and it also means Pele, like how God is revealed in a wondrous way inside of me. When we could recognize that inside of us, we are a miracle, not just miracles happening outside of us, that we are the miracle. And this is like, it's a shift of consciousness. It's a shift of like, in Hebrew, it's called toda'ah from the word da'at, that right now we're like, oh, I'm an exile. I need something outside of me to prove to me that God is here. I need the light switch turned on outside of me to remind me that God exists. But what if the light switch is already there and it's just waiting for our dot to just recognize it and turn it on? This is the hardest thing because because we have a million and one reasons not to look internally, but to look externally at and compare ourselves. And what don't we have? And what information is outside of me? And what is still far away from me? Whereas the deepest miracle is like the recognition that I am a Pele, that each and every one of us is an absolute Pele walking and sitting and eating. And so Mashiach times is like this revelation of the letter Aleph of the Pele, of the wonder of who we are. That's that's even greater than Egypt, if you think about that, because in Egypt they were on a very low conscious level, and they needed the miracles to come and awaken them and to take them out. And then working on ourselves throughout the Omer period, we refine ourselves, etc., etc. But now that we have the Torah, now that we have everything at our disposal, except for uh, us, our will, actually wanting the thing. So it's a really deep level of honing in on our willpower, on our inner willpower, which is where the wonder is, that our inner willpower to reveal the miracles that are already here. So we've got a number of points before we jump into some some of the Midrashim. So every letter of the alphabet has a numerical value, right? Gematria. And the gematria of Aleph is one which represents the oneness of Hashem, right? Aleph is really worth one. And just speaking about gematria, numerology, it's very important to understand that when we say numerology, it's like, oh, Aleph is one, Bet is two, Gimel is three, cool. No, the truth is that Bet is two Alephs, Gimel is three Alephs, Yud is 10, and Taf is 400. And you could add to this like up until, up until basically in infinity. But what does that really mean? It means that the letter Aleph is compounded into 400 condensations, which it says that the Jewish people were in exile for how many years? Technically 210 years, but it was really 400 years since the birth of Isaac and whatever. So what is 400? It's 400 Alephs. That means it's 400 levels. It's the most condensed that the Aleph could get to. In other words, from the Aleph coming in as being so luminescent, so so light, it becomes condensed and becomes opaque to the level that it becomes so dense that you don't even see the Aleph anymore. And that's again going back to the idea of the condensation of the um, of the exile of Egypt. And the our enu niflaot is that I will show you the Aleph within the 400. The 400 is like there's no Aleph here. There's nothing else but somethingness, but by ego. There's nothing else but ego. There's nothing else but the other side, where it says in Kabbalah that this world is filled with klipot, is filled with the shells, and the Rishaim are successful and the wicked people prosper, right? One of the questions of Job, why do the wicked prosper and the righteous don't? Well, it's because this world is made in that way, right? It says in King Solomon says in Song of Songs, Al Ginat Egoz Yaraditi, I went down to the garden of walnuts, which very interestingly on the Passover night, we give walnuts to our children to play with. It says in Shulchan Aruch, like, so you're like, oh, walnuts. Yeah, those are cool, Laffy Taffies of their days. Like as if, I try giving a kid nowadays, like here, go ahead and play with some walnuts. Like, what is this thing? Like, is this they wouldn't even recognize a walnut. But anyways, the deeper level of why it says actually like to give the kids to play with walnuts, some people do that on the Seder night, is because the walnut represents the most condensed level of the other side of the klipa. It's like this fruit. It's a nut, right? But it's technically a fruit that's like covered over with one shell and another shell, and the shell is so hard, it's so opaque, so condensed. And then on the Seder night, we give the child to play with that, and we awaken the question of like of what, ma nishtana, like look, yes, it's an opaque world. It's a world where the wicked prosper and they then and bad things happen. However, there is the letter Aleph that's there. The letter Aleph is there, and if you keep on searching for it, you will you will like you will iron out, so to speak. You'll get rid of the opaqueness once you keep on searching for the Aleph. That's, through that tunnel. That's there. It's just our life is basically an an incessant quest towards the Aleph. That's that's really my neshama. That's our neshama. And going back to that simple purity where we come out of this klipa of the shell of the walnut. So, but very basically, the aleph is one, right? Aleph is one in gematria. Again, Bet is two, but it's two Alephes. But it's the unity of God. Hashem Echad. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which we know the Shema has the letters, a large letter, Ayin, and Dalid, which means Da, which means to know, which is Da'at, to instill within our consciousness the Da'at of seeing the unity within the multiplicity that's in creation. So one more complex level, we that the form of Aleph comprises three letters, two Yuds and a Vav, right, from the Alter Rebbe. So the gematria of Yud is 10, and two Yuds is 20. And what's Vav? Vav is 6. And the sum, all totaling 26. And of course, what's 26? 26 is the name Yud K Vav K Tetragrammaton, the name, the holy name of Hashem. So in the letter Aleph, we have the holy name of God, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, which equal 26. So Aleph has the numerology of 26. So we're finding God within the 26, within the 26 within the world. And also Aleph, if we actually spell out its full gematria, its full self. So the Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, and the Pei is 80, and that all equals 111. That's a pretty cool number, 111. Why is that an important number? Because it has the unit, it has the one within the one digits, within two digits, and then within the three digits, within the hundreds. And what that means, it's the instilling of oneness within the multiplicity of the world. So Aleph 111 is the multiplicity of seeing God within the world, within Teva. That's what Aleph, the full gematria of it. And the same letter as Pele. So yeah, we're gonna do the Rav Kook in like a little bit in a couple of minutes. So this is like a summary of the introduction of the Zohar, which I'll share with you because it's a really cool like little story, you could say, where all the letters come before God. And they're like, ooh, me. I want to be the first letter to be used in creation, right? It sounds like very cute, like very almost like childlike. Like what do the letters have to do in with talking to God? How could they talk to God? Why do they want to be the first ones? What do they represent? So the Zohar goes through each letter, and I just sum this up. I'll share with you like more the full piece of this in the email. So every letter represents a special quality and asks to be the vessel of creation. But each letter, beautiful as it is, also carries some limitation, shadow, or imbalance. Truth is bound up with death. In other words, the letter tough, the letter tough comes along there and it comes up from the last letter first, and it's like, hey, me, because I have the letter emet, tough, but it also has within it met, which means death. So there's the opposite, there's the shadow of it. Shin can be taken into falsehood. Tzaddik must remain hidden. Pei and Ain are tied to transgression. Tet's goodness is also hidden. Right? The Zohar goes through each of these letters. Zayin contains conflict and so on. Be alone, Bet alone is chosen because it is the letter of bracha, of blessing. And therefore the world begins with Bet. And of course, like the commentators and many people ask, like there's bad words that start with a Bet also, right? But there's something that the Midrash brings out, and when we cover the letter Bet more in greater depth, like we'll go into that, save it for that. But uh, but Bet is chosen. The Zohar tells us because there's bracha, and God wanted the world to be infused ultimately with blessing, and it's tied up with the purpose of creation. So although this is a world where, the other side, it seems like there's so much darkness, there's opaqueness, but at the deepest level, what does God really want? Why did God create the world? For what reason? To just remain hidden and not here, and to make and that life should be difficult? No, that ultimately that there should be blessing, that God wants blessings to come down, and that the world should be a place of blessings, a kli machzik baracha, right? And he created the world for that. So that's the letter Bet. But the Zohar tells us but the deepest surprise is Aleph. Aleph does not push itself forward. So basically, after the letter Bet being chosen, Aleph is like, cool. Like Aleph is silent and remains back precisely because of that humility. It is given something even deeper, and being the first letter of creation, it becomes the letter of unity. The world may begin with a bet, with multiplicity, right? Because we have bet already, we have multiplicity. Technically, the Zohar tells us that's really on the deeper level, that within the multiplicity, we bring the blessing and manifest creation. But all true yichud, all true unity, all true oneness rests in the Aleph. So there's something that's beyond the bet of creation. So the bet of creation is basically what we see. It's our world. And according to the Zohar, according to the Ramban and many other, the world, the Torah starts with the letter bet because it's already the place of multiplicity. But beyond the multiplicity, what exists? What is there? There's the unity. There's one, echad, the Aleph, that's there beyond it. That that is ultimately our life goal to achieve. So this is a very cool midrash. The midrash says, Rabbi Yonah said in the name of Rabbi Levi, why was the world created with a bet? Because just as this bet is closed on all sides and open only in the front, so too you have no permission to ask what is below and what is above, what was before and what was behind. Rather, you may inquire only from the day the world was created and onward. In other words, like the letter bet starts us off with like, you know what? Don't go to what's above you, what's below you. Like here you are. That's where God wants you. Like God put you here. Like don't start investigating. Don't go beyond, what is known. Bar Kapara said, ask now of the former days that were before you. It's a quote from Job. From the day that they were created, you may investigate, but you may not investigate what came before that. And from one end of heaven to the other end of heaven, this you may examine and explore, but you may not explore beyond that. Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi taught concerning the work of creation together with Bar Kapara. Why was the world created with Bet? To teach you that there are two worlds, this world and the world to come. Another explanation, why with the letter Bet? Because it is a language of blessing, which saw that in the Zohar. Why not Aleph? Because Aleph has also the letter of Arur, which means curse. Another explanation, not why not with the Aleph? So as not to give the heretics an opening to say, how can the world endure if it was created with a language of curse? Rather, the Holy One, blessed be He, said, behold, I will create it with a language of blessing, and may it indeed endure. So we obviously have to understand this, like why the letter Bet is good and bracha, and the letter Aleph has a letter Arur. Another explanation, why not with the letter Bet? Because just as this Bet, why with the letter Bet? Just as the letter Bet has 2 points, one above and one below it, When they ask the Bet who created you, it points to its upper point and says, the one above created me. And when they ask, what is his name? It points with a point beyond behind it, says his name is Hashem. And the shape of the bed kind of has these 2 points that point like basically there's no like it's God from the front of me and from the back of me. There's only Hashem. Rabbi Elazar ben Chanina said in the name of Rav Acha for 26 generations. Again, very interesting. 26. We said gematria of Aleph is 26 if we take the Yud and the Vav. 26 generations. The Aleph protested before the throne of the Holy One, blessed be He. It said before him, Master of the universe, I'm the first of the letters, yet you did not create your world with me. Something very interesting actually to point out is that the Midrash says that the Aleph protested, and in the Zohar actually says that the Aleph did not protest, which is a really deep difference between the Zohar, which is the Kabbalistic uh, source, which takes us to a different vantage point in our understanding versus what the Midrash is coming to say, which is giving us more of an allegorical explanation. So from the allegorical measure, we have the Midrash telling us that the Aleph did protest for 26 generations. It's like, why not me? Why not me? I'm the first letter, yet you did not create your world with me. The holy, which again, we need to understand, what does that mean? Like, why would a letter one want that? And isn't that egotistical? So the Holy One, blessed be He, said to it, the world and all that fills it were created only in the merit of the Torah, as it is said, Hashem found the earth with wisdom. Tomorrow I will come give the Torah at Sinai, and I will begin with none other letter than you, as it says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am. Rabbi Oshaya says, why is its name Aleph? Because it accords with Aleph, 1,000, as it says, the word he commanded for 1,000 generations, which means the Torah, Davar Tziva le'elef dor, that the Torah was commanded for 1,000 generations. In other words, that idea of 1,000 generations, which came at the 2000 millennia. It says that the Torah really came into the world, came to Davar Tziva le'elef dor, for Aleph dor. So the world started with the letter Bet, but then God was safeguarding the Aleph for the Torah to be given for the Aleph dor, for the 1,000 generations. So, I mean, we could really delve into this midrash a lot, and I think we'll come back to it when we go into the letter Bet, which is an amazing letter. But I'd like to explore the beautiful words of Rav Kook. I love learning Rav Kook's words. They're almost poetic, especially when you read them in Hebrew and also translated into English. They're very, very poetic and very deep. So he kind of gives us a very beautiful synthesis of everything that we've learned and putting it out there. So it's almost like if you would just read the words of Rav Kook, you'd be like, oh wow, that's really cool. But like when you realize where he's getting this from, the depth that's there in his language, we could appreciate it a lot more. So he says the following: Aleph awakens within us the thought of the beginning, the primordial start. We gaze upon its greatness and stand astonished at the preciousness of its vision. It tells us with an everlasting message: listen, learn, be taught. Ulpan is the translated form of learning. The soul knows that whatever comes through learning is not original. What is original is the inner idea that is not yet expressed. So let's just contemplate upon that for a second, because it's what is inside of this idea is not yet expressed. And whatever it is that we're learning is not fully original. In other words, something may be a chiddush to me, but there is this point of originality that comes from this like source that's there, that came before us. That will one day be the inheritance of the world. On the great day when no one will any longer teach his brother, his fellow, saying, Know Hashem, for all will know him, from the smallest to the greatest. It says this in Tanya chapter 42. Learning is translation, the backside of the inward face of thought, not the wakefulness of the soul, but rather its slumber. This is the teaching hinted at the Aleph in its very name. So once again, learning is translation, the backside of the interface of thoughts. So basically telling us that there's something in this shape, that just meditating on this shape. So we have this lower leg that's kind of like receiving, but yet where is it receiving from? It's receiving from this point. And this point is this supernal crown, which is this divine thought. Whereas the lower yud is this receiving water. So not the wakefulness of the soul, but rather its slumber, the Aleph backside. So again, that we may think that we're actually thinking, but a lot of times we're not really thinking. And this is a very deep understanding of like what thought is. And we spoke about this like a lot. That thought are really regurgitated emotions, right? Remember that? That we've got our chokhmah, divine intelligence, our understanding, bina, but then we have our emotions. And if our emotions are in place, if our emotions are in the right place, so then what we receive is is higher thought, and machshava is chashav ma. It's like, what am I thinking? I'm thinking the ma. I'm actually receiving divine downloads. That's really Mashiach consciousness. That's Geula that we're talking about. Our enu niflaot is like receiving divine downloads, having esoteric awakenings, having downloads, spiritual downloads happening to us. It's not like, oh, you're a spiritual, like out there person. It's like all of us are really conduits to that, to this divine energy. So when we are aligned, and what's interesting is that the Vav has this beautiful like alignment that is almost like this humility, isn't it? It's like when we take a look at the Vav over there of the Aleph. So it's just like hanging out like boop, like on the side, but it connotes humility, that if I want to connect my higher yud, which is my higher thought, higher alignment with my lower thought, lower self, then I have to be in a state of humility and gratitude, basically, that go hand in hand. That's really the essence of this slanted letter Vav. That if I want to receive, it's not like, oh, I'm so great. I'm receiving, these spiritual downloads and I hold power because of that or whatever. I am absolutely nothing. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, the greatest of all that downloaded the Torah, received the Torah, that Anochi came through him, was the most humble that ever lived. There was nobody more humble than Moshe. And he's actually represented by the letter Vav. Moshe represents the letter Vav. Why? Because he's the totality of the Zer Anpin. He's the totality of Tiferet, which is right there in the middle, which is the letter Vav, Kabbalistically. So Moshe is this letter Vav, and he's able to download the Anochi because of his humility, because of his letter Vav. So if we want, like Rav Kook is saying, to reconnect, to awaken from the slumber and to connect to that higher thought, uh, so we need to have that humility, basically. This is the teaching hinted by the letter Aleph in its very name. Its closeness to the numerical Aleph, as we saw in the Midrash, 1,000, leads us to think of the fourth numerical rank: ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. So we mentioned, right? We mentioned one, 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 right? But there's an additional aspect here that the letter Aleph also means Aleph, which is God found within the thousands. So the numerical aspect is 111, but it's also got the thousands. Bye, Marcy. Happy birthday. Um, so that leads us to think of the thousands. So too, there are four levels of logic: sealed logic, mental logic, verbal logic, and audible logic. So what does this mean? There's four levels of logic. Sealed logic. In other words, this is just a closed system, like math, sealed logic. It's mental logic. If this is this, so then that is that. So we could compare. Verbal logic, this makes sense. And audible logic. And I hear this. And when we say like, I hear this, and like, this is logical for me in my heart. This is logical for me in my body. This is logical for me in my being. This is the logic of the letter Aleph. So learning belongs to the fourth arrangement, to herd logic, to the opening of the ears, the fourth level, whose very increase is already a diminishment. So in this poetic way, it's like basically, this deepest learning is an audible logic where we hear, where what do we say in the Shema? We say Shema, hear, O Israel, don't we? We don't say see, we say hear. Why do we say hear? Because we're hearing what is even beyond us. We're experiencing what is beyond us. I remember when I was a little kid and closing my eyes and like rubbing them. Everyone's done that, right? And you're like, whoa, you feel like almost like an expansion happening in your retina and so I remember that feeling. I was like feeling the space around me and feeling a very vast space around me. I think that was my first spiritual experience, like laying there at night going to sleep and my eyes closed and just like there's something here that's beyond me that I don't see, that I don't understand. Um, but I could hear. But that is the source of all learning. That is the source of it all, right? And isn't that what Avram Avinu really investigated? That's what he saw. Jane, I think you're on mute.
So It always occurred to me that, well, the reason why you start with a bet, with Torah starts with a bet while there's still an Aleph, is that so that there is an opportunity to look back to see that there is a singular point of creation before duality hits, and that singular point of creation is Aleph. So it starts with bet so that there isn't a notion that there isn't a creative point. If you started with Olive, if Torah started with Olive, then you would there may be a tendency to think that the physical world that is described in the Torah is all inclusive and that's all there is. But you leave aside an olive before that to see that there's a singular point of creation, which is God, and then everything else is created from that rather than rather than all inclusive by itself.
The question is, to who?
Well, to man, I would think, the person who studies the Torah and if he's looking into the Torah to study it, if it started with an olive, there would be a tendency, or there would be a potential to think that this is all inclusive and that's what it is. But if you start with a bet, there's an olive that precedes it and say, oh, so there is a source to this, rather than saying this is all there is.
Yeah, so the reason why I asked is like the question is who's searching? So basically it goes back to the whole purpose of creation. God put us in this world and we could take everything for face value. This is it. What you see is what you get. Eat and drink and be merry, for tomorrow, you will not be here. Do whatever you want. No one is looking. It doesn't matter. Just don't get in jail. Just do what you. I'm saying, who is seeking, right? That's the question, because God left this world like in the words of our sages, the sages say that God left this world to go on a path that a path that a person wants to go on, travel on, they will be led on. And God left this world in just this way of whoever wants to make a mistake, to make a mistake. Whoever wants to search can search, right? So the letter bet gives us the distinction and gives us the power of free will, essentially, to now search beyond myself. Like in the question, it's like the question of all questions of like, why am I here? Like Jewish, not Jewish, all mankind, right? Is really in the Torah is like is there for all mankind essentially to wake up from the slumber, which Rav Kook uses, right? But that's but most people are in the slumber. No, they're not. Most people are not searching for anything that's not going to serve them. If it's not going to serve me, if it doesn't give me something, me, ego, physically, I don't have something that I could benefit from, I don't care about it. And that's the letter bet being like basically capped inside of a bet inside of a house. Like boom, I'm there. And I don't go out of the house. I'm stuck. But actually, going back to Avram went out into nature and he started to see God in nature and he asked the questions. And this is what, on the deepest level, really what science, aimed to do um, before before scientists became like, atheists. But the original science, Rav Kook was a very big proponent of that. And he basically says that as we come closer and closer to Mashiach, science and tech and Kabbalah and Judaism and truth basically are not two different things. They're really all one. But those that want to be stuck in science and be like, no, this is just the these are just the facts. And you know, there is no creator, right? That's beyond this set of laws that are in the universe. There are a set of laws, and we're just created by a set of laws, and we happen to be here. There we go. So I could be stuck, and I could believe that, as smart as I am. So who's searching for the Aleph? And this is what Rav Kook is saying over here so like beautifully. I just love his poetic language. He says that there's the four levels of logic, and he says there's the audible logic. There's something that's when I close my eyes and I say the Shema, when I close my eyes and I breathe, I meditate, or I go into nature. I open up my eyes and I go into nature and I listen to what's there. So then so then I know. I have that letter Aleph. There's I there's a deep awareness. That's really what it is. Aleph, actually, it's interesting. Aleph, if you spell Aleph, awareness in Hebrew, I believe that awareness is really this letter Aleph within our psyche, within our consciousness. So the upper yud of the Aleph reminds us of richness, of multiplicity, as it exists in the root of number in its expansion, from which we can picture the grandeur of unity that contains within itself abundance and greatness. From that wealth of multiplicity that comes from the greatness, and basically we call that the Ein Sof, which also comes from the letter Aleph, Ein Sof, Aleph, right? Infinite. From the greatness bearing within itself every increase, every force, every multiplication, and every finite addition that flows from it. We depict the lower yud as actual multiplicity, right? And that is like a setup for the letter Bet. The powerful relation between absolute multiplicity hidden in the secret of exalted absolute unity and bounded unity, which places things within distinct limits, is not a direct contact. The finite cannot touch that supernal height directly. Rather, from the shifting foundation that no point alone can mark, there emerges a diagonal line beginning from the left side of the upper realm. That line is the quality by which transcendent power reduces itself, dims its light, so that it may become visible and radiant to every finite being, grasped in image and understanding. From there, radiance proceeds, and the more it lowers itself, the more it becomes revealed in the lower realms. Through the diagonal passage, the upper content of unified multiplicity touches from one side with a subtle, delicate contact, enough in the strength of its life to fill all with life and overflowing existence. And from the lower side, the most refined content of multiplying multiplicity bounded and branching without end into the upper worlds, upon worlds reaching that same diagonal line. All of them are united in one whole, and then flashes the light of the first of lights, the Aleph, in its written form. Then, so Rav Kook continues, right? This this is like deep stuff. I mean, we could like really have to like take your time like reading this. I'm gonna share this, but it's like take your time to just like read it and like kind of like let it simmer in it within, and how beautifully Rav Kook basically says this. Says that the higher yud is just like this point of the Ein Sof of infinity, infinite abundance, infinite goodness, the Shefa of all of creation. And then there's the lower Yud, which is the way it comes into creation, where it's already dimmed, you could say. It's multiplicity. It's the beginning of multiplicity. It's where the Aleph now meets the Bet, you could say, right? It weaves into it, into the next letter. But yet there's that letter Vav. Mentions it's humility, but that letter Vav just draws that infinite light into the finite existence. And we could take this on so many levels. On the internal level, on our level, I'm just meditating on the letter Aleph, like is such a powerful meditation just to visualize that letter without any other letter. Just take the letter Aleph in and like thinking of the letter Aleph, bringing the letter Aleph into your specifically torso, as we mentioned, because the torso is right there by our lungs, bringing in the air, which the Zohar tells us air is avir, but it's the letters or yud. Avir is the letters or yud. That's what air is. Air is light, but it has within it this divine light that's within the air, right? Or yud, we take in light when we breathe, and we take it into our letter Vav, into our lungs, which is right there in the torso, and we bring it down into the rest of our body. And then we breathe out and let out any restriction, any limitation, any multiplicity that's there within where I'm at. It's so simple, to just, there's a lot of deep meditations, with the name of God and but this is such a beautiful, deep, like protection meditation, I would even say, because it really protects our energy. Where if I'm walking somewhere, or I'm in a place, I could just imagine the letter Aleph like right there in my heart. The the divine is within me. I'm breathing in the divine through the letter Yud, and I'm bringing it into my being, and I'm releasing self-limiting beliefs, limitation, anger, grief, stress. Right? Let's maybe just take a moment to really take in the letter Aleph. And we could think of our diaphragm as just that letter Vav almost. That's just able to rise up, bringing in that light from the letter Yud, the higher point of the air that I want to breathe clean air, divine air. And I want to release any unhealthy air, anything that's blocking any toxins in my body, free radicals. would say the biggest difference is letter Bet is what I see when I open up my eyes. And the letter Aleph is what I experience. Awareness, awareness with an Aleph that is within me. When I close my eyes, and just to almost put together this class with this meditation, closing meditation, everything that we've touched upon. The Aleph is a teacher. The Aleph is teaching me what I already know. It's teaching me that I'm a Pele, that I'm actually a wonder inside of my body. My soul is an absolute wonder. And that I can bring that awareness into single digits, double digits, triple digits, and even Aleph, thousands. Multiplicity. The Aleph doesn't go away. It's always there. Take a breath of the letter Aleph. Just grounded to the here and the now. Grounded to my source, within my source. To revelation. Sorry about that. But we really don't have to go too far, do things anything complex. It's all simple, like Rav Kook was teaching. The Aleph wakes us up from our slumber. slumber of thinking that we're thinking. We're just being enmeshed in multiplicity and things outside of us. So this week, let us practice meditating on the letter Aleph every day of the week, starting from today. And if I go someplace, I could bring that Aleph with me. And it's almost like Superman wearing that, Superman sign like on his shirt, on his, and it's like, yep, I've got the Aleph there. Nobody could see it, but like it's there. And it's Alufa Shel Olam, which means like wondrous. So let's take that Aleph with us wherever we are, in Africa, in Oregon, in Arizona, New York, even New York. Um, in Tzfat, in Yerushalayim. Yeah. And deep in that teacher student that we are, learning, listening. And so I look forward to continuing this. There's a bunch more on the Aleph. We're gonna like a little bit like wrap up next week, but we're gonna go to the letter Bet, where we're gonna uh, be understanding the letter Bet in a greater way. So it's a really cool book that Rav Kook has on the letters, not translated into English. So I kind of like had to translate it. Um, but it's a really cool little book that kind of like puts together everything that we've sort of said in a very poetic way. So I'm going to share that with you as well. And please meditate on that letter Aleph. That's all you need to know. That's all right, my friends. So wishing you a great week and many blessings. And I think that Miriam is going to be on Wednesday, wherever can make it. And I look forward to sharing a meditation of some sort this week as well, like beyond what you meditate on. But 10 minutes a day, I think is totally doable. So, and it's your own teacher. So just go free flowing with the information that's already there and feel into it.
It's a great class. Thank you. And I'll wear my superhero
Super
Aleph
Alex.
suit this week. When I'm feeling like not so sure about things, I'll put it on. Feel better.
Exactly. I think you should always have it on,
I think
right?
so too.
Yeah.
Don't have to break it out for an emergency, just always wear it.
Yeah. I think that's like the garb of Mashiach, like Mashiach's word, it's
There we
like
go.
that,
I like that. Yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure. Mashiach is going to teach, right? He's going to teach the ultimate. Aleph, right?
Yes. Beautiful.
All right, everyone. So to be continued a little bit on this Aleph, and then we're going to go on to the letter Bet next week with Hashem's help. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's connected here.
Have a beautiful week.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Rabbi Michai.
Shavua Tov, everyone.
Good
Shavua
job.
Tov. Many blessings. Shavua Tov.